Hello and welcome to Scale to Seven Figures and our $1 Million Fireside Chat. I am Lisa Anderson, Strategic Business Advisor, Virtual CFO with Anavo Transformation Solutions and your $1 Million mentor. And I am excited you are joining me. Scale to Seven Figures is an interactive group of small business owners in the business to corporate, and business to government markets who are ready to scale their businesses to the next level. Our group is an opportunity to share, learn, and grow together without competition. Each week, I bring tips, tactics, and strategies through our $1 Million Masterclasses and our $1 Million Fireside Chats. If you are not familiar with us, head on over to www.scaletosevenfigures.com and check us out. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy our next powerful conversation. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's $1 Million Fireside Chat. Happy Wednesday. I am excited to be here again today. My thoughts and prayers go out to all of our friends in Texas who are experiencing power outages and the unprecedented weather that they've had over the last couple of days. While we're here in the DC area where it's nice and sunny, but I hear that we're going to get a little bit more of that bad weather before the week is out. But I do want to extend my prayers to those who are in Texas and trying to fare through these difficult moments. Let me know where you're listening from. Let me know that you're out there. Tell me where you are. As you know, I am live streaming from 4 different locations. I am live streaming from LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So let me know where you're joining in. Ask your questions in the chat. And also let us know what you're thinking about the topic that we're discussing for today. I am Lisa Anderson, your Strategic Business Advisor and Virtual CFO with Anavo Transformation Solutions and your $1 Million mentor. And welcome back to our Black History Month theme for February. This month, we are talking about building wealth and legacy now within our Black business-owned communities. And last week, I spoke with Aaron Owens, our insurance broker, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and wealth builder. And we talked about the 5 I's of investing in business. So if you missed that, please check out our YouTube page at Scale to Seven Figures to catch the replay, because there were a lot of gems that were dropped last week. Today, we will continue that conversation on legacy and wealth building as I talk with real estate extraordinaire Stephany DeBerry about ways to build wealth through investing in real estate. So help me welcome my friend Stephany to the show. Hey, Stephany, how are you?
Hi, Lisa. I am well. And you?
I'm doing good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive into our conversation, and I can't wait, this is going to be fun. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, I am Stephany DeBerry. I'm originally from upstate New York, so I'm used to all this snow that's going on around the country and expected to be here tomorrow in the DMV. But most people know me professionally as a realtor. So I'm a realtor licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia with an expanding team across the country. I'm also a real estate coach, a media host, and a motivational speaker, and a mom of 3.
Wow. Everything that's keeping you busy, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yes. Very, very productive. But I enjoy it. You know, when you enjoy what you're doing, it truly doesn't feel like work.
Yes. I like that word that you just used, productive. Very productive. Not busy, yes. Productive. Yeah.
Exactly. Because you can be busy doing a lot of things and it's not enhancing, right, to your bottom line, sometimes even our lifestyle. So I learned that years ago. Replace that word with productive. And so it's true. And I'm sure you're productive as well. So
I am productive and sometimes overly productive.
exactly. I think we tend to do that as small business, as women.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about the type of real estate that you focus in on, and who do you ideally work with?
Okay, so I've been licensed for 15 years. I don't know where the time has went, between DC, Maryland, Virginia. So that allows me to work with a very diverse population. You reside in the DMV as well. The majority of my buyers, let me first say, I work with everyone. Right, I do. We never turn business away, but I will say the majority of my buyers are pretty much move-up buyers. So what I mean by that, they may have owned prior, and now they're going into that second or possibly forever home.
Yeah.
So I kind of help them as they're making some major life changes, as they're growing into usually more home for most of the clients that I'm working with. I also work with new buyers, luxury buyers as well. That's my focus really for this year, is really tuning in to the higher price points. I love new buyers because that gets me all excited, because what we're going to talk about today is your home, not just the roof over your head, but also looking at it as an investment, right?
Yes.
And so that's very important. So I get to educate them along with my team. I also work with agents. Agents are my clients too. Sometimes I do a lot of referral business.
Okay.
Here in the DMV, we have people moving in and out constantly, government jobs or military or education or even private sector. So this area is just very transient. And so my realtor colleagues are also my clients because they provide me with business opportunities.
Yeah.
And small business owners as well, I work with.
Awesome. So I did a talk a couple of weeks ago for the Women's Business Owner organization here in the DC area. And we talked about joint venturing as a fast path to growth. And there were a couple of real estate agents in that webinar. And one of the things we talked about was strategically aligning yourself with other agents. So I'm happy to hear that hear you say that you do that you actually align.
Oh, yeah. And it's been the last couple of years. Locally, I'm the president of 2 real estate organizations, nonprofits. Both are national and they have chapters in DC. And so that has allowed me to expand my network across the country. And so even just last year, I had probably almost 1.5 million, close to, in referral business. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
Right? And so it's an amazing opportunity. We talk about not being competitive, but learning how to collaborate, basically, is what you're saying. And there's so much opportunity. We just have to have that mindset to learn how to work with, because we're not all going to get all the business, right? It just doesn't happen like that. And sometimes to better serve our clients, because that's our job, right? Is to serve our clients first. You need to have those referral partners that are going to take care of your clients no matter where they are in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Tapping into your network does actually give you the opportunity to increase your competencies. It gives you the to serve your customers a lot better. And it gives you a fast pathway to cash. So there you have it.
Exactly. There's so many opportunities with that. And I teach newer agents to think like that. Because sometimes they come into this business, and of course the income is appealing in real estate, but then how many ways can you create that income? It doesn't mean you have to sell doors every day. There's so many opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. So this month of November, I want to go backwards, and I don't want to go too far ahead. So this month of February, we are talking about legacy building and strengthening our investments as a way to increase wealth within our portfolios. And real estate is one of those areas. At least for me, I've been able to utilize real estate investing as a way to increase my portfolio for my legacy. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about why that's important. Why is it important to, as small business owners in particular, to think outside of the box and think about some of the different ways in which to invest to build wealth and legacy?
Well, for me, it's funny we're talking about this legacy because that's actually the name of my company is Living Legacy LLC. And so I said, for me, being a Christian, we always heard, leave an inheritance for your children's children, right? Yeah. And so that was my introduction to legacy. But I said, I don't just want to leave a legacy. I want to live it too. Right? I want to live it now and in the present. And so I think it's just very important because for me in particular, it goes back to purpose, right? Many of us engage in businesses, entrepreneurs and small business owners, of course, as a ways to create income and wealth. But I think for many of us, it goes beyond that, right? It's not just about us. And our legacy is not just the financial, it's the impact, right, that we have in our community, that we have within our families. I'm first entrepreneur in my family, right? With our children, if you happen to have children, and some of us now with the internet and social media, the impact on the world, right? We actually have the world at our fingertips. So I think it's very important. I know when I started out, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I used to have a restaurant. I love salad. So I had a salad and smoothie restaurant. Started in DC, then Virginia, then Miami, and we actually grew. My whole point was to bring healthy eating, to the masses as a person of color. But at one point I was like this small little, mom and pop shop because we all kind of get started. But you have to think beyond. And I love, your scale to 7 figures. At one point, I didn't know what that meant, right? So we have to think beyond ourselves. And I think that is part of what legacy is, right? Learning how to grow, learning how to look outside the box, learning how to be creative. Because a lot of times as entrepreneurs and business owners, we are very creative, right? So that we can get to those next levels, so that we can leave a legacy for future generations. It's why I do what I do. A lot of times, you ask new business owners, entrepreneurs, why, right? We need to know our why because it has to drive you through those down times, through the times you want to give up. And I just think it's so important too for our community in particular. We hear about Black Wall Street in Tulsa. We hear about other communities. There were so many communities across the country where we were self-sustaining.
Yes.
And I think about that. I used to do college tours. That was one of my businesses too. And I took young people to the Carolinas. We were Raleigh-Durham, I believe it was. And we went to a community. I took them to a church because, the church is a focus of a lot of our communities. And this particular church had the history of that neighborhood. That neighborhood was like Black Wall Street in Tulsa. Every business imaginable we owned. Right. And so I think about that when I started my business, our forefathers, our ancestors, how they had so much less than what we had or had access to anyway. And it's just imperative. Like it's everything for me to make it. Right. And to leave better for my family and those that have been impacted by the work that I'm doing. So I think it just goes back to our purpose and our why, and it helps to sustain us during those down times as to why it's important to leave a legacy. I don't think you can't go wrong by doing it.
Right, absolutely. And I love what you said because that's one of the areas where we begin. When I start an engagement with a client, we start with the end in mind. I can't help you get to some place until I know what place you're trying to get to. And in every day that we're building towards getting to that end. And so you're absolutely right. What your why is everything. I wrote a news article this weekend that talked about that, writing a love letter to your business and talking about you're in love with the business. And if you're not in love with it, why not? And what do you need to do in order to rekindle that? But that is so very important. So
yeah, I think that's the foundation. A lot of times, I'm sure you teach a lot, you share, you're a mentor, and we're encouraging people to become entrepreneurs. We're telling them, turn your passion into a profit. We have all these different taglines, but it gets to the heart of the matter. What's the heart of the matter? Why are you doing this? Because I'm telling you, that will propel you like nobody else's business, right? So I think that's just so important that business owners keep that in mind as we're continuing to grow and to build on a day-to-day, because it gets tough. It gets tough. But we can help make it easier for those coming behind us. I feel that is part of my legacy, is to make it easier. And I've started doing that, not just for my business. I'm in real estate. Initially, I came in, of course, to take care of my family, do something I enjoy. But then I found that there was a missing part, basically. So many agents struggle in this business. And so a new aspect of my legacy is making sure I don't leave any agent behind, right? That they get off to a running start, because I didn't have that. I was looking for a mentor. We know how important that is, but I didn't have it. And I wanted someone that looked like me. I can learn from anyone, but I really wanted to align with a woman or a man of color, and I wasn't able to find that at the time. And so I think it's very important for me to do that for other agents and small business owners that I come in contact with. So then each one continues to teach one, right? Yes. And so we just get better as time goes on.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the real estate investing and how, we can use that as a tool from a business owner perspective. What advice do you have for business owners? So you talked about learning how to scale and learning what that meant, and then really making that happen, and then eventually using the scaling components as the means and the tools to be able to invest in other wealth building things. How did you do that? How did you actually get into that mindset and start to do that?
Well, I would say for a business owner, I want to start like very basic and foundational. As far as real estate investing, as a business owner, do you own your own primary residence? Let's start there, right? That's important, right? Because again, it's not just a place where we create memories and raise our family. This is a property. This can be a major investment. Most people's first homes is their first investment. And if you don't own your primary residence, let's look at that, right? Because there may be some opportunity for you there. And then also taking into consideration for business owners that are outside of the home, or they run their business outside of their home. Are you renting or owning that space, right? Let's start where we are, because sometimes we're very ambitious as business owners, right? Like you said, we got the end in mind, but how are we going to get there? Well, sometimes we got to start right at the first level. Let's look at what you currently own, and if you don't, how you can go about that, right? Because when you own your own home, right, that's leverage, right? That's leverage to help you sometimes get the capital that you need for business, the credit that you need to grow that business, so that you can go on and do other things. So it's like a springboard, right? And then if you do own your own home, okay, do you have the space that you need outside, right? Sometimes what I've seen in business, people have too much space. They're paying too much. They don't even utilize everything that they have. I learned that in business when I had my restaurant. You need to make use of all the square footage you have. I've walked into numerous businesses lately where people could scale back considerably. I don't know if they got a good deal or not, but I'm wondering how much money they could save if we learn how to scale down. But again, sometimes we have these big projections and things aren't growing as fast. So I would say start where you are. Get into the mindset of ownership. Right. And so many of our business owners don't own their own spaces. We know that, right? They're renting. Get creative. Maybe, you can partner with another business. You mentioned this earlier, collaboration, right? Sometimes these business owners, depending on what the business is, may be able to sublease their space, rent out, aspects of their space. That's how you start to create wealth. And help another aspiring entrepreneur and business owner come together, right? Because many of our businesses are online. Of course, there are some where folks have to come in and visit your space or your place of business, but a lot more of this is just a front, right? Yeah. Sometimes we just have that small business mindset. We have to have an office, right? Or we have to have a place where you don't always have, clients coming into, right? And so how can you best use that space to make money off of it? Right. Same thing you would do residentially. If you had a home and you were just one person and you had extra bedrooms and maybe your lifestyle affords it, you could lease out those bedrooms. You could Airbnb. Same thing for small business owners, right? We have got to get creative, and people do it all the time.
I did it.
You did it? Oh, so then you can speak to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I leased space probably for so I was home based for a good amount of time. Then we moved into a lease space for maybe about, well, it was 2 years because I had a 3-year lease. I broke my 3-year lease when I found 2 business condos that I wanted to purchase. And it happened to be in the 2008 real estate
crash,
right? So it worked out for me,
right?
I got a good deal, and my lease space was small enough that my landlord had a waiting list of people who wanted the smaller spaces. So it was okay for me to break my lease at that time. So it was mutual. We agreed for that to occur. But I purchased the 2 condos. We operated out of those condos. Then when we actually scaled back, because that happens in business.
Sometimes you have to.
Absolutely. I then instead converted that space to a co-working facility. So where we actually mentor other small business owners. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with, like you said, have that ownership mentality.
Right. I think that's most of the battle, right? The mindset is with anything, but having that mindset, not I just want to get a space, but how can I own this space, right? And I think sometimes, because I know when I was, in my own space, now I get to work from home. But when I was in my space with my restaurant, I just wanted, again, my sign, my business, that pride of having my own business. But then I was paying an amazing amount of rent to the gentleman in the town that owned most of the buildings in the town. Right. And so we just need to think like that, especially during this time and with COVID. So many things are changing for folks that do currently own the building. You never know. Real estate is cyclical, seasonal. It's always changing. Just because folks are landlords and owners doesn't mean they always want to be. Sometimes they want to sell. Sometimes they want to get out of the business. Sometimes they are tired. So we need to always, like you said earlier, be looking for opportunities, be expecting. And also ask. It never hurts to ask and know what your options are, right? And be willing to revisit. Even if you are on a lease right now, I want to encourage someone, if they are on a lease, you can always go to your landlord. You can always still continue to seek other options and see how you can make things happen. Sometimes we just get comfortable, right? I've been in this space for a couple of years. You don't own it, but you have this lease. You just never know until we start asking questions. In real estate, everything is negotiable.
Yeah. Everything's negotiable, period.
Yeah.
It's not just in real estate.
Right.
Everything is negotiable.
Right.
It's not unless you just accept. If you just accept whatever you get, then it's not negotiable.
Exactly. So we have to have that mindset, because you never know with the opportunities that are presenting themselves now. Some of these, corporate park owners or, commercial space owners, everything just fluctuates. That's what I've learned. Be open to receive, because sometimes we're not. That's a whole nother thing. Sometimes we're not, because our mindset has already shut it down. And so you just never know until you start to ask questions, right? Absolutely. And start to network with your other small business owners. But that, like you mentioned, co-working, now you see that all over. You were like a visionary, right? Now you're starting to see, even my brokerage, we operate out of a virtual office space, Regis office facilities across the country. So we can use that platform for our business if we so choose to want to use a space. But I think it's genius, because small business owners don't always need a space all the time. So we got to look at how we can save money and maybe invest that money into the market or into other aspects of real estate that can bring us more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or more returns anyway.
So can we talk a little bit about what's changing in the market right now by way of opportunities for small business owners in the real estate market?
Well, I think there's always, for me personally, but that could just be my mindset. But especially with everything that's happening now, where the interest rates are where they are now, I think small business owners need to either, contact a professional such as myself,
Yes.
contact someone in your community that can assist you as far as looking into opportunities. If you do want to have a space of your own outside of your home, or if you're in need of. But what's changing even more now, of course, there's vacancies there. So like we said earlier, this is a great time to try to negotiate if you feel that that's the next step for you. But also, depending on your business model, depending on what your product or service is, I do want to enlighten our folks and let them know virtual corporate offices are taking off, especially in light of COVID, because again, some of our small business owners may also be working, from home, or they had a job that allows them to work from home. So they're seeing this in their daily life that, I'm going to be working from home. A lot of companies are scaling back, right? And so there's a whole opportunity to look into renting and even buying virtual office space for your growing companies. And so many of these companies are, techie based or online based, where that could work out wonders for your company, right? And it's considerably less expensive. There's no brick and mortar, there's no overhead. So depending on the business model that you have, you may want to look into that. And I'd be more than happy to give folks information on that if they contact me, because again, we have to be visionaries. Many business owners are, right? But this is not a lane that you normally operate in. So I'm here to share that that's something that most may not have even considered. Because if you don't have to have folks coming into your business or clients, you may want to consider the virtual space.
Yeah. One of the things I talk a lot about, and I wrote about it in my book, is making certain that you have an A team that is surrounding you, that is helping to protect you, to serve as a confidant to you, to help you move strategically. And I'm about today, as a result of our conversation, I'm adding real estate agent as part of the A team.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially if you're thinking, if you have an idea, you want to invest. And real estate tends to be, you correct me if I'm wrong, it tends to be one of the most stable investments. There are moments when, it fluctuates, but in the long run, it turns out to be lucrative for you.
And that's what you said, the long run. And so for me personally, even though I've been a realtor for 15 years, I was married prior. And so my husband and I saw things a little bit differently. And so it took me some years to rebuild on my own and own my own space, right? So that's just being real. Every realtor doesn't own their own space. We should, and many of us are working towards that, but we have the same issues as anyone else, right? That prevents us from owning. But part of that too is a mindset. But, having said that, this is my home, but it's also my first investment. This isn't my dream home. I knew when I purchased it, right? I had the mindset of I purchased from a military family. So the area where I'm in the DMV, tons of military down here. I'm near Quantico, near the base. Okay. So constant in and out, folks having to move here for various reasons. And so that family that I bought from got stationed overseas. So I said, you know what? This is my springboard, right? Yeah. This is what's going to allow me to finally, as I'm the move up buyer that I serve, use this to go on and do other things. And with me being a realtor and with the amazing brokerage that I'm with, I also, we have stock options, which again, another way to invest. And so I use stock options to purchase this house. And also I'm using stock options to purchase investment properties. So one of my goals is every year I'm using my stock options to make investments in real estate, which is furthering my investing into my legacy over time. And so that's what I'm doing personally. But it took a mindset shift. I think I always had it, but sometimes when we're connected to our partners, they may not. And so we just have to, pivot, adjust. And that's real life, right? We have to make the necessary moves to make sure that we are achieving the goals that we set out to do.
Yes.
But real estate can definitely help. It's one of the ways to build your portfolio. It doesn't have to be the only way,
Right.
but it can be very lucrative. And as you said, over time, I'm not getting into properties where I need to fix and flip.
Right.
I don't have the time for that, the oversight. There's a lot that goes with that. And I caution people when they say, okay, I want to get into investing. Again, you said an A team. You need to have a team. Right? These are not things you can just do on your own. People never tell the stories where they made investments in the properties and they lost considerably, right? It happens.
It does happen.
Yeah, you need to work with professionals, your agents, your lenders, your contractors, right? Huge. You just have to have insight and understanding as to what you're doing so that you don't lose money. The whole point of investing is to make money, right? And so it just speaks to what you just said. But I'm using real estate, not only my career, right? Because that's a whole nother thing, as a career in real estate, to allow me to invest in real estate, to allow me to leave a legacy.
Yes, absolutely. So you talked about one of the hurdles, one of the things that prevents business owners from making these investments, and that is not having that professional, that resource that can help guide them through the process. So now we know we need to add our real estate agent to our A team.
Yes.
I think hurdle you just touched on as well, which is, how do I invest in it? If I don't want to use the money, or I don't have all of the money, what types of ways can I invest in real estate? How do I get capital to do that? You just shared one very creative way that you're using to invest in real estate. And you talked about the interest rates. Let's talk about some of the things that business owners can do to get over that hurdle.
The capital. Okay. So part of that is one, our credit. Let's just, we have to really work on maintaining our credit. Right. And so earlier I spoke of just at a foundational level, when you at least own your own home, right, and you're paying your mortgage on time and all your other bills, that just opens up the floodgates, right? Yes. You can use that level of home ownership like I'm doing, right, and then go on into owning investment properties. But for capital, there are, sometimes hard money loans. There are, you may have to do it as a partnership. See, that's another thing. Sometimes we have to get creative and form groups and partnerships. I think sometimes our forefathers and those that came before us might have did that a little bit better than how we tend to do things. Sometimes we don't want to do things as a group, but real estate, depending on what you're buying and how pricey that is, you may need some assistance, right? And so we can use each other's skill sets. One may have capital, one may have the skill set to, run the transaction along with the A team. We have to figure out ways that we can work with each other, right, to get into these investments. But I would say in order to access capital, we have to maintain our credit. And we know there's personal credit, and then of course there's business credit. But many of us don't have that established business credit. That takes time. That takes, going through the steps to establish business credit. And initially, they're still going to look at your personal credit, right? And a lot of times when you're buying investment properties too, especially new, first time, they'll tell you purchased it in your name, and then you go back and deed it in the name of like your LLC or your company. So still, it's going to depend on that personal credit up front until you have established your company and then can buy in your business name. But for small business owners, I would say look into also financing. SBA has financing, right? That's a huge one that I think sometimes we overlook, right? We don't take advantage of that resource. They have financing if you want to own your space too, right? Your commercial space.
So when I purchased my buildings, I partnered with SBA. And the programs that they have right now, just lending in general, the SBA programs are phenomenal just because of the impact of the pandemic and just trying to get everybody healthy. So I agree with you.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
SBA is one. I would actually start there, and then also in our communities, different counties, you may have your small business economic development council, right? We got to learn how to take advantage of these resources because sometimes in your county or your town, they'll have even grant money, right?
Mhm.
That small business owners could use towards owning their space or land or even development of a space. So those are resources that can be used, especially with COVID. Yes, some funding has run out, but I would still look into neighborhood, county, town resources because there's some smaller funds that still may be able to help you get to where you need to go. And you're making those connections, right? So when there are opportunities for more, you may be first to know, right? When you start to make those connections. Also, there's hub zones, there's different
Yeah.
areas. When you go into wanting to have a space, be strategic, right?
Yep.
First of all, how much space do you need? Is this something where folks are going to be able to come in and out of? Is
Yeah.
this a business where you can hire folks in the community, right? Because sometimes hub zones operate off of that too. Are you creating jobs? I think a lot of times for why we're not as successful as we can be as entrepreneurs, I think it goes back to mindset, just having that right mindset. We know we want to own our business, but then what else can go with that? But then also the planning aspect of that. Like you said, you help people get to where they want to go, but you have to really do your research, be very strategic, and
Yes.
plan out how you can do this. And also in your planning, if things come up, learn how to adapt and make moves. But I think just starting out, doing the research, a lot of times I know as a business owner, I'm very creative. I didn't want to sit down and come up with my business plan.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And you think business plan, all these numbers. I don't know numbers. I don't know projections. I don't know this, right? And so you get frustrated. But then it goes back to the A team because there's so many resources, right, in the communities where you can use. I can think so just throughout the DMV area. We got women business owned centers. We have, in our different councils and towns, they have SBA offices, basically where you can go and score. It's huge. Mentorship through that. So there's so many ways to access the capital that is there. It's out there.
Yes, it is.
I think we need to let people know it's definitely there because if you didn't see it last year with COVID, folks,
Yes.
money just came from where did it come from?
Right? Magically.
And some people took advantage of that appropriately, right? And use it to grow their business. And so I would say, I just named a few, but folks need to really start making phone calls and get online and doing research and get specific to their industries as well, right? Because sometimes there's money out there, industry specific, right?
Yes.
That can help them, own their own and make those investments. Even if you get something, give you working capital while you're saving that income from your business so that you can own, you just got to find ways to, rob Peter to pay Paul, make it work.
Well, like you said, it's strategy, right? It's strategy. You have to sit down and you can't strategize with yourself. I help companies strategize, but I don't strategize by myself. I need somebody to help pull it out, and so does the next person. So get it out of your head. Let's throw it to the wall. Let's create the pathway to get there, and then let's leverage those resources, like you said, because that is what's going to help you achieve the goal, the thing that you really want to achieve. So.
And like you said, a lot of times as business owners, I know me, I'm usually alone, right? A lot of times, and we can't do it on our own. There is no self-made. To me, I never believed it, but people say it all the time. You need the support system. But even, and with that, the reason why you need people to not just extract from you, but also help you see things in ways you may not have seen it, directions you can go, ideas you never thought of, because we don't know it all. And sometimes, if you get in front of folks that you trust, a part of your team, they can help you in ways that you never even considered, because there's always more than one way to get things done.
Absolutely.
right? We
Absolutely.
just have to be open to it. And sometimes it's hard as an entrepreneur because we want to be the boss.
Well, my attorney told me some many years ago that there's no room for ego in business.
Well, in some respect, I can understand that. I can
Hmm.
see that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I look to always be, even in my industry as real estate, we could talk commercial, residential, land, then all the
Hmm.
different niche outside of that. There's so many lanes. When you think you're the top dog, you're not really,
Right.
because there's so much more to learn, and that's one reason why I love this. There's so much to learn in this path and in this industry that I'll just constantly be learning, and that's one thing that fulfills me with it.
Yes, I
So I
love it.
understand that.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and we could actually do this all night for real.
We could. I'm like, oh my goodness, still have more, but this has been great.
Yes, I mean, real estate is one of the things that I've enjoyed. I've when you think of it, I've done it. I won't say all of it, but I've done a lot of it. We've flipped properties. We've created a family investment group. I've owned my
See?
personal real estate, my personal commercial property. So I've tried it. I've tried it, and my business was the asset that gave me the tools to be able to do that. And
And that's
so,
what I was alluding to. So you're a living example of that. And it can be done. And you even mentioned the group, your family, like we just talked about that, partnerships, collaborate, right?
yes,
Because there are ways if we can pool our funds and resources where things can happen. I just think more people need to ask for help, right?
yes,
And also sometimes I think this is very important. I'm sure you can attest to this. Not just ask for it, but sometimes be willing to pay. I
mm,
think that stops us a lot too, because
yes.
we think we can, everything is our lane. It is not. You have to get in front of the professionals that can assist you. And sometimes you do have to pay for that information,
Well,
right?
not all the time you have to pay for the information. You just determine when you pay. You could pay today or you could pay later.
Ah, that's true.
It's usually going to be cheaper today than it is going to be later. So
Exactly.
you
But I
will
think
pay.
that holds us back sometimes.
Hmm.
Because again, we're not looking at it as it's an investment,
Right.
right? You're not just paying and throwing your money away. It's an investment so that you can grow and further develop your business and opportunities. But again, it goes back to how we look at it.
Absolutely. Well, this was great. I really have enjoyed this, and I want to thank you so, so very much for sharing all of this wisdom and insight. I can see the chat. Everybody's in the chat room. They're sharing questions and information. So make certain I'll tag you in them so you can go back
Okay.
through and take a look at them. But I really do appreciate you, Stephany, for joining us this
I
morning.
appreciate the opportunity, Lisa. I'm looking forward to working with you in the Spring and Wealth Conference. So, more opportunities for us to come together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look, in 1840.
Yeah, right. So tell everybody how they can connect with you and
Oh,
learn a little
sure.
bit more about you.
Okay, so I'm on social media, guys. You can reach me directly on my Facebook. Stephany Gordon is my personal page. That's my maiden name was Gordon. And then my business page is Steph Sells the DMV. Instagram, Steph Sells DMV. LinkedIn, Steph Sells DMV. My real estate website, if you're looking for commercial or residential, you can go to Stephany with a Y, sellsthedmv.com. And then my website that lists just about everything that I do is stephaniedeberry.com. So you can find me online, my phone numbers, everything is there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I do look forward to collaborating once
Yes,
again in just about a month, right? We're getting close to,
exactly. That
yeah,
should be great. I'm looking forward to that opportunity as well.
I am. So we're talking about spring into wealth, right?
Yes.
The Spring into Wealth Conference with Aaron Owens and Stephanie and I and other speakers will be talking about ways to build wealth. So we're going to continue this conversation.
Exactly. And Dr. Boyce Watkins, I think he is
Yes.
the actual guest speaker, which he has a platform of building wealth over the years that people are very much attracted to learning from him. So I'm excited.
I am too. Well, my friend, thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you as well.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Real estate is one of the ways in which you can continue to build your legacy and your wealth. Stephany shared a lot of great information and ways to get over the hurdles that we sometimes found ourselves in as we try to consider ways in which to invest in larger opportunities. One of the things I always say that I want you all to remember moving forward is that your business, the business that you're owning and operating right now, you want to build it as a value-based asset where you have the opportunity to, I call it stash cash. So build up your cash reserve so that you can actually go and invest in other things that will help to continue to build your wealth and your legacy. Thank you for joining me this evening. We will be back again next Wednesday at 5 p.m. with another legacy building strategy. Business owner, investor, and community leader Antoine Ford will be joining me to share his story of how he grew his business from into an 8-figure revenue earner and how he is building his legacy. So I hope to see you next week. And until then, I am Lisa Anderson, strategic business advisor and virtual CFO with a novel transformation solutions and your $1 million mentor. And thank you for joining me. See you next time.